and welcome back to the Lehigh Valley Velodrome for tonight's 3rd annual Corporate Challenge and also the Bentley Graphic Communications Madison Series. I'm Amanda Spengler. I'm joined by Chaim Letwin. And Chaim, we're definitely going to see some new faces out there tonight, as the members of these teams are actually employees of local corporations from around the Lehigh Valley. And there you actually get a look at the teams. We're going to have Team EDS going up first, and then Mack Trucks and Red Robin, the Faith Evangelical Free Church, Lehigh Cement, Morgan Stanley, the Morning Call, PPNL, T Networks, and then there'll be 2 Air Products teams. And Chaim, if you want to introduce the members of this first team that we're going to be looking at there in the red is EDS.
Sure, this is the EDS team. We have Carrie Sinell, Brian Zimmerman, Rick Herrera, Sue Miller, Rich Ziegler, and John O'Neill.
And Chaim, these teams are actually qualifying for the finals that are going to be taking place later tonight. They'll take the top 4 teams. This is going to be a 6-lap race.
Exactly. This is an Italian pursuit. It's much like the Olympic sprint we saw earlier this year. The rider that leads will lead an entire lap and pull up. They have to pull up between designated marks on the track. It's about 20 meters before the half-lap line and 20 meters after. Each rider will lead 1 lap until they get to the last rider, and the time is taken off the last rider. Now, you think maybe you could put a really strong guy in back and just let him go 6 laps, but you can't. Actually, the person in back has to stay behind all the riders in front of him until it's his turn. Now, there are 2 women and 4 men on each team, so it's going to be an interesting split to see if all the women are in front or if there are some mixed in, depending on the strength of the riders. As we were telling you at the Open, these riders have been taken through riding classes with the local pros at the Velodrome 1 day a week for the last month, sort of getting used to the track, and you'll see they probably will all ride relatively close to each other and be in a good pace line. And that's what you want to do in this particular race. You want to be as close to each other as possible, because then you get a draft off the person in front of you.
And Chaim, you have to imagine we're going to see a lot of the same strategies for each of these teams tonight. As we said, they are beginners, non-experienced riders. As you see, EDS get started.
And actually, there's a woman leading the pack and a woman sitting 4th. It's an interesting way to put it. Now, because the woman's a little bit smaller, she's gonna get a lot of draft off the riders in front of her, which may give her an advantage when she's up. You can see, though, they're staying relatively close together. They could be a little closer, but for the level of comfort that they're at, it's not bad. And there you go. Your first rider rides 1 lap, pulls off, and lets everybody go underneath.
And Chaim, the reason those gaps look so far away to us is we're used to seeing these professional riders out here who stay literally within centimeters of each other while they're going around the lap.
Well, exactly, and it just goes to show how much skill it does take to ride that close. Although we will see a couple really good riders out in these heats. I believe there's maybe 2, possibly 3 riders that were or are still professional riders and also work at local businesses. So they're probably going to give their team a hefty advantage. And you can see that the riders are starting to get fatigued and roll a little bit up and down track. They're going to put their head down. That's typically what happens with somebody who doesn't ride a lot and, you know, is stood out here a little bit more for fun and doesn't do it as a profession.
As you can see the crowd there, we have a great turnout tonight. I'm sure many of these men and women's families and children and friends are out here to see them race tonight.
Absolutely, it's a huge thrill to be out here in front of everybody. And something interesting, this last team here, this EDS team, you might notice that the last rider sped up considerably after the person in front of her pulled off. That can be really good because you increase your speed, but the hardest thing to do when riding in one of these pace lines is to keep a steady pace. You want to try to keep a steady pace. If you keep a steady pace the whole time, you're going to conserve more energy and people aren't going to get dropped. With a big acceleration like what you just saw, if the person behind you can't accelerate as fast, you might blow them off your wheel. And it doesn't matter when anybody else finishes, it just matters when the last person finishes.
And these 2 last riders have picked up the pace considerably. As you hear the bell there for the last lap coming up.
And now we're coming to 1 lap to go at 2:23 so far for the first 5 laps. And just to give you guys an idea, I mean, just a little comparison, when the pros were out here doing their Olympic sprints, which was a 3-lap race, their first 3 laps were about 1:07, 1:08. I didn't catch the first 3 laps of these guys, but their 6 laps was 2:46. and your second 3 laps are always going to be faster than your first 3 laps because of the start being involved.
So EDS finishes with a time of 2:46.77. You get a look at the scoreboard there.
And for now, they will be in first place.
Coming up next for heat number 2, we're going to get a look at Mack trucks and also Red Robin.